Have you ever felt?
Are you listening?
With veganism on the rise, Generation Vegan interviews the up-and-coming hottest vegans. And in this podcast, we teach you the practical side of having a plant-based diet. Today, I've got another vegan badass for you, Scott Shetler. And he is about to blow your mind with his outlook on veganism. So let's dive in. All right, so hello again. Thank you so much for coming back to Generation Vegan, where we try to normalize veganism. And today I have the honor of interviewing Mr. Scott Shelter. Did I pronounce that right? Shetler, okay. He is one of the team members of Plant Built Athletics, which is a vegan bodybuilding team, and honestly, one of the inspirations of my vegan transformation. And he has a gym, which is called Extreme Performance Training Center, based out of Atlanta, Georgia, where he trains future Olympians and bands like Comeback Kid. And he was one of the first kettlebell trainers in Atlanta, which is amazing. I would love to hear more about like your pioneerism. Is that the right word? in that whole area. And he has an incredible personal blog, which I love your writing skills. I mean, I wish I had the discipline and passion to sit down and write that much. But he also has like a plethora of super impressive clients and their testimonials, and he has been published on Iron Life and Iron Buddha Fitness, and he is sponsored by Beyond Meat. And if y'all follow me on Snapchat, y'all know that I'm obsessed with that product. And he has a passion for sexy cars, and he drives a McLaren 650. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a 650S. Yeah.
650S. And you mentioned that it was actually, is that your wife's passion or?
Yeah, it's more my wife, honestly, like I like cars, but she's crazy for cars. Her dad's a race car driver. He does drag racing and stuff like that. So she's always been around high performance cars. And that's like kind of her thing that I get to enjoy, kind of along for the ride. So. Good
gosh, that is so hot. So we're going to jump over that, but I want to ask just for my personal clarification, because I know a lot of my viewers are vegan and they struggle a lot with dating, and just finding either another vegan, or they feel like they have to be single until they find a vegan. So could you just kind of give them advice or tips on how to date non-vegans and maybe
I'm not certainly not the guy to talk to for relationship advice. I've been married for over 13 years now.
That's awesome.
I'm 40, so I'm officially like the middle-aged married guy, but and like I explained to you in the email, when I met my wife, neither of us were vegan. I'm kind of newly vegan. I've only been vegan since December 31st of 2012 is when I went totally vegan. Then I had stopped eating meat in like April of 2010. So, especially with some of my peers, I've been vegan for like 10 minutes, so it really hasn't, been an issue for me. Now, my wife, she's not totally vegan. She does still eat some eggs and some fish, and she's just struggling with her diet and stuff like that. But she is going more and more plant-based. But, I would just say, and this kind of extends outside of even dating, is just don't be a jackass. Meet people where they're at. I only know of a couple people who've been either vegetarian or vegan since birth. And they're the two most non-judgmental vegans I've ever met. And I think one of the worst things for veganism as a movement or as a subculture or a community, whatever you want to call it, you can't be judgmental. You can't be that stereotypical. Every one of us, well, most of us, were probably omnivores at one point in time. We made the decision to stop eating meat. Start eating plants. Start looking at our lifestyle and where we can start making the necessary changes to minimize our impact on animal welfare and stuff like that. So realize that not everybody is where you're at on your journey. And the best way to approach that is to be a positive role model and a positive inspiration for yourself as well as the vegan community. And certainly, it's up to you who you date and stuff like that. But I don't know if I was in the market, if I would let that be a barrier. If you truly are interested in somebody, you might inspire them, with your lifestyle choice and stuff like that. But if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Don't feel like you shouldn't talk to people or associate with people or whatever. That's the worst thing you can do. as a vegan. You need to be open to everybody. You need to be a positive role model for the vegan community. And like I said, don't be a jackass.
That is such a good answer. And I love that because I struggle with that a lot of like judging people for not being vegan. But I have to kick myself in the butt because I have to remember I wasn't vegan for 25 years. So get over it and move on. And you kind of just, and I know a little bit about you because I've read a lot of it actually. But would you mind telling people why you went vegan and what, like, was it for the animals, for your health, for the environment?
Absolutely. You know, it's kind of funny. I mean, you know, it was my wife that kind of initially spurred me on, even though she's not vegan now, but she, you know, she was the one who really planted it in my head because it's something that she struggled with for a long time is the ethical side of your food choices. And, you know, even when I was eating an omnivorous diet, I certainly, you know, she was, you know, more plant-based than I was. I mean, she eats a ton of vegetables and very, very little animal-based food, whereas me, it was like meat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You know, to me, a vegetable was a potato. You know, I mean, no greens, nothing like that. And it was just that typical mentality that you're exposed to in the fitness industry nowadays, where everything is protein, 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 and it's all, you know, it's meat and it's eggs and it's, you know, whey protein and stuff like that. And so, you know, when I was an omnivore, you know, I'm shoveling down, you know, all this meat all the time. And it was just absolutely disgusting. I mean, we were at a restaurant one time and I think I was eating, I don't even remember, like steak and ribs and chicken. And, you know, I weighed like 230. I was a big power lifter and all this stuff, you know, and she was like just disgusted. And she said to me, she goes, you know, do you ever think about what you eat and where it comes from? And that was the first time anybody ever challenged me, you know, and I felt like she was being kind of hypocritical because there she was eating like tilapia or something. It's like, well, you still eat, you know, and that's the typical response, is to become argumentative or to be, you know, combative or to withdraw and make excuses and stuff like that. But that always kind of stuck with me because we are such advocates for animal welfare. We were spending a lot of time, you know, volunteering for animal rescues. All our animals are rescues. You know, we donate a lot of money to animal welfare organizations, rescues and stuff like that. And then I started to make that connection. And I did it. I felt very hypocritical, but on the same side, you know, I wasn't educated enough to understand that you could, you know, be into fitness, you could train hard, you could lift, you could do all this stuff following a plant-based diet. You know, I just hadn't come across that information yet. So it was really tough, you know, and none of my peers were into it. Of course, you know, vegans are always laughed at, you know, with the lifters and stuff that I hung around with. And, you know, there's the old joke that, you know, vegan is, you know, an ancient Indian word for, you know, lousy hunter or whatever. You know, I mean, it's always the stupid jokes and stuff like that. So I didn't have access to that information, but I was starting to make that connection. And honestly, what really my tipping point was finally is a horrible story, but back in like 2010, right, literally the day before I decided to stop eating meat, I had smelt this awful smell in my garage. I thought it was like the trash or something like that, because we didn't have, you know, cars at the time. You know, we just had our personal, you know, daily drivers or whatever. We weren't collecting exotics at the time or whatever. So we didn't really need our garage. We were using it for storage. So we weren't going in and out of it much, other than to take the trash out every week. Well, I started smelling this awful smell. And this day I had moved this shelf and there was a dead rabbit there. And I realized that it got into the garage one day when I had it open. I didn't know, you know, because there's so much crap in the garage. I didn't know it was in there. I shut the door and then he never got out, and he died because of that, you know. And even though it was not a direct, you know, I certainly, it wasn't a malicious thing. I didn't mean to do it. I didn't even know. It hit me square in the face. And as I'm cleaning up this poor animal, you know, I said, that's it. I'm done with this. I can't do this. You know, I can't consume animals anymore. That was the thing that finally tipped me, saying, I've got to figure out how to do this. And I stopped eating meat. I was still, you know, having some dairy and some eggs and things like that. I mean, I didn't really know what to do, but I knew I got to start making some changes. And that eventually led me to start educating myself, finding out that there are vegan bodybuilders, there are vegan, you know, powerlifters, there are vegan strength athletes and regular athletes. And then when you start looking for it, this whole community opens up and you start finding the information that you need. And that's really how I began, you know, cutting out meat from my diet and then transitioning into following a 100% plant-based diet. And adopting a vegan lifestyle. So that was really the tipping point for me. And honestly, looking back, it really is something I probably could have done overnight had I had the education,
Right.
to do it. Because even though I stopped eating meat, I still wasn't eating healthy. I was still eating a lot of junk food. And even as a full-blown vegan, it's very easy to be an unhealthy vegan. When you find out Oreos are vegan and there's no shortage of vegan, there's amazing vegan donuts out there and snack foods and stuff like that. But it's like, while, we do this for compassionate reasons, because most people I feel who adopt a vegan diet or call themselves vegan are doing it because of ethical motivations, primarily animal-based, and then secondarily, usually some sort of environmental or some sort of activist, based type of reason. But unfortunately, a lot of those people are not healthy. They eat a lot of shitty foods. They eat a lot of junk food. And, compassion just doesn't extend to animals. It extends to people around you. It extends to yourself, and you've got to take care of yourself. And I'm not saying, you just need to live on spinach, but make better food choices. A whole food plant-based diet is hard to beat from the health, standpoint. I'm not saying I don't like to eat, junk food or things like that, but you don't live off that stuff, and you got to take care of yourself. So that's really what started it. It was definitely more, ethically motivated because of my love for animals. And then it's just like everything, it's an evolution. I made the transition to, lacto-ovo, pescatarian, whatever all the stupid titles are for it. But I just started working out the animal food and started incorporating more plants until I finally just said, that's it. I drew the line, I'm going to go totally vegan.
Yes, I love that. Was such a powerful answer. And I think my favorite part about this podcast, interviewing people, is finding out their tipping point. Like, I just love hearing that one moment where you're like, I'm done.
Well, you think about it like this, and this is why I don't get judgmental, for people who eat meat. I'll never do that. I'll never be that person because I ate meat for the bulk of my life. I eat animal products for the bulk of my life. So I'll never be the judgmental, vegan. I can't stand. I hate telling people I'm vegan, honestly, because immediately the reaction is, oh, you're a condescending asshole. It's don't talk.
Exactly.
Get your shit away from me. I don't want to hear it. And I'm not like that. If anything, being a personal trainer and owning my own fitness business, I'm in a position to inspire a lot of people without saying a word, because they saw, my health change. They saw me lose 50 pounds in a matter of months. They saw, my health totally turn around, my energy get better. And that caused a lot of people. And granted, not everybody that I train is a vegan, but a lot of those people are working in more plant-based foods. They're experimenting with different meat reduction options. That's a huge win. That's a great thing, because now they're aware. And I think awareness is the key. And for me, that awareness was, I can't go out and, like, I couldn't hunt my own food, call me a sissy, whatever. I couldn't go out, and if I had to do that to survive, I would have a hard time doing that. I would have to be like on the verge of death to kill another animal and eat it to survive. So I can't go out and do that. So what right do I have to go buy chicken or steak or whatever at the grocery store and eat it, knowing what it went through to get to my plate? And I think that's when you see people start to make that connection. And that's usually the awareness, when it starts to kick in for people and they start to make those realizations. And like I said, all you can do is be a positive, role model for those people and just encourage them and be there to answer their questions and stuff, but never, I hate the people that try to shove it down your throat, because nobody's going to listen to that.
I'm so happy right now. Let's do a happy dance. I'm so excited and inspired by you. So I love hearing you talk. And, I just was wondering if you could tell me about the first bodybuilder or the first person, like the first vegan with muscles that you met.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, because he wasn't totally vegan, but there was a former Mr. I think it was a Mr. Universe. He's a classic bodybuilder. His name's Bill Pearl. If you've never seen him, look him up, because he's in his 80s now, and he looks like he's like 40. The guy looks amazing.
Wow.
He's an ovo vegetarian. He cut out meat at his doctor's order, because his doctor was a vegetarian, I guess, and Bill had cholesterol problems and things like that. And at the recommendation of his doctor, he cut out meat. He does eat eggs, which he lives up in Portland, I think, or in Oregon somewhere, and he's got his own, he's got his own farm where he grows his own fresh vegetables and stuff like that. And he does eat eggs, and I think he might use a little bit of whey protein. Other than that, he eats a totally vegetarian diet, and the guy phenomenal. And he started that young. He won bodybuilding contests. So he's always the first guy that a lot of people come across. And you're like, wow, this guy's doing it, without eating meat. He's eating some dairy and stuff like that. But the guy looks just like, he beat the meat eaters. And then that led me to find a website called veganbodybuilding.com. That's Robert Cheeck's website. And I remember watching, this was right before Forks and Knives was coming out, because he was promoting it on his website. And I remember watching his little video of him, like training and running down the beach and eating an apple and, whatever. And I'm like, he looks pretty good. He doesn't look like the big roided out, pro bodybuilders, but he's won some drug-free. I think he was a drug-free bodybuilding champion, but he competed. He was your typical skinny guy, and he built muscle. I think he's over 200 pounds now, eating whole food, plant-based diet. So he was my first, but because of him, there's such a big community on his website where people post their profiles. And that's really what opened up the door to like, wow, it's not just Robert, or, Bill Pearl or whatever, they've got mixed martial artists and fighters and regular sport athletes and arm wrestlers and strongmen. And all these people are posting their profile on vegan bodybuilding. And actually, before that, a guy I'm friends with now, Mike Marhler, was the first actually straight up vegan kind of strong guy that I had come across through the kettlebell community. Mike's been vegan, I think, for about 30 years now, 20 or 30 years.
Last name?
What's that?
Could you repeat his last name?
It's Marhler. It's Mahler. He does a great podcast called the Live Life Aggressively podcast with his partner, Sincere Hogan. They do a great show. I've been on it 2 or 3 times now. And Mike's been a vegan for a very long time. He's very motivated by animal welfare. So knowing the types of lifts that he was able to accomplish and seeing he's always lean, he's always muscular. And then, seeing Robert's website and all the people out there, I said, okay, it's definitely something that's possible. Now I got to figure out how to do it. So I'd say, Mike Marhler, Bill Pearl, Robert Cheeck, those were the first ones that I really came across. And then that led me to the plant-built guy, Giacomo Marchese and his wife, Danny. I actually met Giacomo at Atlanta Veg Fest back in 2013, right after the first year that Plant built, when they were just a bodybuilding team. I think it was about 13 or 14 bodybuilders, did the Naturally Fit Games down in Austin.
Yeah.
And then when I joined the team in 2014, I was part of the first powerlifting crew. There were 6 of us that were competing in powerlifting. And then we had also had, I think, 4 people competing in CrossFit that year, in addition to the bodybuilders. And then in 2015, the last year that we did our meetup down in Texas, we had, I think we were up to about 14 or 15 powerlifters. We had about 10 CrossFitters. We had kettlebell sport athletes. And now we've got people interested in being on the team for strongman. We got people that are interested in possibly like martial arts. So the team's really growing and expanding its reach, which is really cool because it's starting to reach out to other athletes. But to show and go back, it was probably Mike Marhler and Robert Cheeck were the first, real vegan physique or strength athletes or enthusiasts that I came across.
Wow. So for everyone listening, I'm going to post links to all those people and everything we're talking about in the description box. But it's really super crazy that you just mentioned the Austin Fit Expo, because before I was vegan, I lived in Austin for about 4 years, and I actually competed in the model search for the Austin Vegan Fit Show. So I was there, and I was with my trainer, and I've mentioned this in one of my recent episodes, that my trainer kept calling. He was like, if I see one more gay person walking around with a vegan shirt on, I'm going to kill myself. And I was like, yeah, screw vegans. They're stupid. And it's so funny that you mentioned that, because it was 2014 that happened. And so
that was the show that you were at, that you were doing?
Yes. And so now I look back and I feel like such an idiot.
I think one of our teammates was Mindy Collette. I think she was in the model search contest. And I think she was top 3. I don't want to, give out the wrong info, but I think she was top 3 or something like that in the contest.
I do believe she was. I don't remember her exact name, but I do remember her being vegan and the fact that she got top 5 or whatever. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Circle of just ignorance. I come back and I'm like, wow.
If you're in Austin, that is such a great town to be a vegan in, because the restaurants and the food are just unbelievable.
You're telling me. Actually, I wasn't vegan when I lived in Austin. I became vegan when I moved to this super small country town, and I decided to make my life super, super difficult. But now, every time I go to Austin, I'm hitting up all the vegan restaurants, and I love it. So
good. I love it there.
Actually, that's the next question. Is Atlanta very vegan friendly, or how do you struggle with?
I mean, I think any big, kind of metro area is going to be. I wouldn't really call it vegan friendly. I mean, we've certainly got some great vegan restaurants here. It's certainly all spread out. I actually just found out today that I might be moving my training center right next to one of the Loving Huts in the city. I know a trainer who's got a place over there. It's literally he shares a parking lot with them, so that would be so cool if I end up there.
Cool.
But yeah, we've got a couple Loving Huts out here. We've got my friend, I became friends with this guy, Godfrey Lewis, who opened up Avocado Vegan Cafe and Juice Bar. It's up kind of on the north side of town near where I live. It's a great little vegan restaurant. We've got Soul Veg 2, which is probably one of the most popular places. It's vegan soul food. Stuff's unbelievable. We've got a couple Cafe Sunflowers, which are really good. And then you've got some small, like kind of specialty, I heard we're just getting another vegan bakery in the area. And then you've got, the places that offer vegan friendly options, like Gigi's Cupcakes, they'll do some vegan cupcakes. You've got like the simple places, that, of course, there's all the Mexican restaurants, there's all the Indian restaurants, there's all the Indian restaurants and stuff that are always, vegan and vegetarian friendly.
Right.
So it's really easy to eat around Atlanta. Tons of Asian restaurants, so it's so easy to find vegetables, anywhere. So if we go out to a non-vegan place, it's still very easy to eat vegan here in Atlanta.
And isn't that so funny that you don't realize how vegetable friendly everything is until you become vegan? Like when you're a meat eater, you're like, no one serves plants or whatever. Like, it's so crazy. So for all my entrepreneurial vegans out there, I want to ask you, could you just share a little bit about your journey about opening up your fitness center? And did you like kind of base it around being vegan or plant-based, or are you just kind of like everyone?
Not at all. Yeah, not at all. I got into the fitness industry. Like I said, I'm actually closer to 41 than I am 40, and I got into the industry when I was 20. About 23 years old, I think. 22, 23 is when I first became a certified personal trainer. I was going to college. I really didn't know what I wanted to major in. I was switching majors, but the one constant that I had in my life was the gym and always working out and fitness. Even when I was in the military, right after high school, I was always training and working out and such. And I loved working with people. I love talking to people. You talk to people say you're making progress in the gym, and they start asking you questions, and you have this passion for fitness and training and all this stuff. And that's really that's really kind of what birthed my interest in it. And I didn't even know it could be a job. Here I am helping people, at the gym that are just asking me questions. And I'm like, wow, this would be awesome if I could get paid to do it. And the guy that ran the gym I trained at when I was in college was the first one to really tell me about personal training as a career. And this was back before like everybody had the internet, we were still, using, like, we didn't even have cell phones back then, so information was hard to come by. So I had to ask him and find out where I could send away for some personal training study materials and stuff like that. And I eventually got certified, got my first personal training certification by the American Council on Exercise. That's when I decided to go back to college and major in health and physical education. So I got my degree in health and phys ed, started working for a YMCA in Akron, Ohio as a part-time fitness trainer. And then I got an administrative position there where I was their office manager, and I was still doing fitness in addition to it. And then after that, I moved to Atlanta, got a great job with a country club down here where I was a full-time fitness trainer, finished my degree. And then I started training people on the side, which eventually led me to opening up my own business. I started training people out of my basement when I started powerlifting in 2004. And then I opened up my own storefront, kind of personal training center in 2008. And I've been doing that ever since. And it's just all, personal training fitness. It wasn't built around vegan or veganism. But now, because I am starting to, get that middle age range and stuff like that, and health is a little bit more of a concern for me than how much I squat, and things like that. And a lot of my clients, I do have a lot of athletes I train, but I have a lot of regular general fitness people, and a lot of people who have issues like mobility, and balance and just health and stuff like that. So food really is, what we put into our bodies, not just what we eat, but what we read and we watch and we listen to, and everything that we consume really has an effect on our life, in our own personal health. So I'm really seeing that's really my interest, is helping people lead healthier lives. And a big part of that is nutrition. And like I said, the more, the more I notice people getting more plants on their plate and less, meat in animal-based foods, we're seeing a lot of progress with the people here. Actually, one of my clients is she works human resources for Kaiser Permanente. And if you know anything about Kaiser, they're very pro health and wellness, not just about, prescribing medicine, but they actually are concerned with lifestyle and stuff like that. And they actually challenged all their employees to a 21-day plant-based challenge where they ate nothing but plant-based foods. But here's the kicker. They had to have their lab work done prior to and after that 21 days. And I think Kaiser was also trying to gather some data to say, hey, we put people on plant-based foods for 21 days. This is what happened, because they've really adopted the stance that a plant-based diet is the healthiest diet and a great form of prevention. So sure. I think what's that?
I just said, so cool. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. So, that's really kind of where my business has evolved to. Like I said, I do train some athletes, but I do train some health and wellness people. It's all, everything I do is personal training. So it's all structured around the individual and stuff like that. And, I've even got some athletes that I train who, as a result of training with me, and not even me telling them to do this, they've incorporated more plant foods into their nutrition regimen and stuff like that. And as a result, they feel better, that they're getting those vitamins, the minerals, the enzymes, all the good things that fresh plant foods can offer an athlete. That helps with recovery, that helps with energy. When your body's not digesting all this really heavy food, you've got more energy to use, for training and things like that. So it's definitely, even though it's not a quote unquote vegan gym, my going vegan has had a big impact on the people that I work with for sure.
So I want to ask just one more entrepreneurial question, and then we'll move back on to veganism. But like on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard was it actually to open a business compared to what you thought it would be?
It was, there were certainly some things that were very difficult, but the way I did it, it wasn't, fortunately, I don't mind working a lot and I don't mind missing a little bit of sleep. Now, as I'm getting older, I tend to value my sleep more. But when I was starting out, I was working, when I started doing my personal business in 2004, I had been working for that country club here in Atlanta full time and going to school on top of that, taking college classes, working 40, 45 hours a week at the training center at the country club, and then starting to consult and train people out of my house. So it was really, I was working a lot, but what having that good full-time job allowed me to do, because I was making really good money, I had great benefit. It wasn't your typical fitness job. We got good salary, we got commission, a big commission, and we had full-time benefits, things like, 401k and retirement and holiday pay and overtime pay and all. I mean, it was a really good, most trainers don't have the luxury of finding a job like that. It's usually either you're working all for commission or you're working for almost no money, a really low hourly rate and nothing in between. So that makes it hard for people starting out. But for me, what having that full-time job allowed me to do was build my business slowly. And I started training a few people and then more and more and more, eventually to the point where my wife was like, get the hell out of our house. You got too many people coming over here. We live in a little suburb in Atlanta, it's certainly people get noticed, people coming to the house at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. and stuff like that. It's just kind of weird. They come in, they leave sweaty, it's just, what's going on in there, but it allowed me to build my business. And there's pros and cons to this. I wasn't, I jumped way after I was ready to jump. I really could have quit my full-time job and gone into my business myself. So I really had to create that sense of, urgency and that drive on my own by letting go of my full-time gig where, I'd already been promoted to the director of the center. I wasn't going to go, I didn't want to be like a country club manager. I didn't want to be in that industry, but, I was using it as a security blanket for too long. So it was good and bad. It allowed me to finance my business. It allowed me to grow slowly and not really risk failure like a lot of people who just dive all in. But the benefit, if you do it intelligently, to diving all in, your focus is 1,000% on your business. And that is something that, if you're going to get into business, you've got to take that step and go all in, or else you'll come up with every excuse for why you're not ready to do it, and going completely solo and on my own, it was kind of scary, but things work out because I've got a passion for what I do. I love it. I will never do anything else. I'll never work for anybody again. I've been doing this for far too long. It's really not that difficult. For me, the hardest part was I don't have a background in business. I have a hard time asking people for money. Just getting over the sales side of working in a business where I'm not giving you a product. You're not coming to me to buy a barbell or a sit-up machine. You're coming to me for something that I cannot give you. Something that I have to help you with, and you're buying my time and stuff like that. So that's tough. When you're selling a service, you really have to have a knack for working with people. You've got to have a knack for getting along with different types of personality types, knowing how to read people, knowing what, people's motivating factors are and how to work with different types of people. It's not something that everybody can just do. You got to have a lot of patience. You got to have a lot of drive, because there's some bad days, there's some long days, but ultimately I get to do what I want to do every day. So that's pretty awesome,
Right. I actually, I wouldn't say attempted. I successfully had a personal training system going on in Austin, and man, was it totally different than what it looks like. I mean, like you said, you have to learn how to interact with different personalities. And when you're feeling down, you still have to push people. And when I was diagnosed with my autoimmune disease, I lost a lot of clients because, I understood like they had their own fitness journey to continue. But I mean, there was days where I could barely even get out of bed. And I was like, I was kind of driven by their goals and whatnot. So could you just, for all the vegans that are new, for me, I didn't feel that energy burst of, that everyone else talks about. So what do you think about coffee, and what tips would you give to somebody who needs more energy on a vegan diet?
I love coffee. I joke that I would have an IV of it if I could. But you don't want to rely on external, and I know it's, do as I say, not as I do a lot of times with stuff like this, but I do rely on coffee a little bit, especially on my early days. Sometimes I'm getting up at 4 a.m. Sometimes I'm up very late. So I do rely on coffee a little bit more than I should probably. I don't think there's anything wrong with coffee, but there's certainly days I overdo it. But it's tough, when you start relying on that external stimulus, because your body, it's just like anything, your body adapts to it, and you need more. And I really think that, one, focusing on yourself and your own ability to cultivate energy, meaning exercise, try to get good, consistent sleep. I think everything that I've read, consistency is more important than, the amount of sleep. Like, it's probably better to get 6 hours every night, as long as you're going to bed and waking up at the same time, than it is to get a lot one night or stay up later one night, then go to bed early. If it's all over the place, that can affect your ability to recover and your energy levels. So I think rest is important. I think exercise is important. I think taking time to de-stress and adopt something, whether it's yoga or meditation or Tai Chi, something Qigong, something like that, I think is very important than just going out and training hard and lifting weights and running and, doing all that type of stuff. You got to have balance with everything you do when it comes to physical development. That can have an impact on your energy levels. If you're doing nothing but squatting heavy and lifting weights and doing sprints and stuff like that, eventually your body's you're gonna wear yourself down. You're gonna get close to overtraining and things like that. So you got to do things that are energy cultivating as well. You've got to do things. You got to take care of your body. You got to take care of yourself. And it's different when you're younger. You can bounce back from anything. But the older you get, the more important restoration and recovery becomes. So I really think you got to look at, just those standpoint, those things, even outside of what you're eating and what you're putting into your body, the things that you're doing to yourself. And then, definitely the food that you eat. I can honestly say that when I experimented with a raw vegan diet, I had more energy and felt better than when I eat a more processed food, driven diet. So as a result, I'm not a raw vegan by any stretch. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I hate the way vegans bash raw vegan. It cracks me up because, you go back to these vegans who are always bitching about the way that, meat eaters, those omnivores, they don't understand us, screw them, they're assholes. But then they just belittle raw vegans. It's hysterical because it's like, you talk about judgmental pricks, yet you're a massive judgmental prick. It's like, what, because they eat cleaner than you do? And all the stuff that you think that they're saying is stupid shit. When you say your stupid vegan shit, omnivores are looking at you thinking the same thing, so it kind of comes full circle. But when I did experiment with a raw vegan diet, I felt unbelievable. But, I like beans. I like burritos. I like, I'm not, but I do notice that when I have greater amounts of raw foods in my diet, especially lots of fresh fruits, lots of berries, lots of greens. I love my Vitamix. I make green smoothies once or twice a day. I notice a difference in my energy. And when I'm eating more junk foods and more, or even just more processed foods or faux meats or things like that, I don't feel as good as when I'm eating mostly, raw plant-based foods. So I think getting a lot of whole foods in your diet is very important. Drinking a lot of water is really important. Staying hydrated, staying away from, sodas and caffeinated beverages and alcohol, all that crap is not going to do. It's not health promoting. I look at it like this. There's two things you can put in your body. It's either health promoting or it's not health promoting, and I'm not saying that don't eat some Oreos or don't eat some cookies, but every time you have an encounter with food, it can be good for you or it can not be good for you. And it really is as simple as that. Eat more stuff that's good for you, you'll have better energy. Eat more stuff that's bad for you, you're not going to have better energy. I mean, it's really simplistic stuff here. It doesn't need to be, like rocket science or anything like some people make it out to be. So it's really, having more energy is a balance between what you put into your body, what you do for the physical body, your restoration, recovery, and relaxation modalities, and then, your sleep and keeping your stress levels down. And if you can manage most of that, you're going to have pretty good energy,
Man, okay, you just gave me a lot of really good nuggets. I'm going to definitely incorporate that into my system. I'll let you know how my energy goes, because I think as a transition vegan at the very beginning, I think a lot of people, including myself, rely on faux meats and faux cheese. And like you said, that's not healthy. It's just a substitute. And man, my energy has been so low. So I'm gonna incorporate more smoothies and see how that affects me.
Yeah, just more fresh, more fresh whole foods. I think the fewer steps the food takes to get to your mouth, probably, it's going to have a little bit more health benefit for you.
I do want to talk about soy before we talk about Beyond Meat, because I'm so excited to talk about your sponsorship with them. But how do you feel about soy, and what do you advise your clients on that?
I mean, I don't get some people get really bent out of shape about it. To some people, oh, soy's the devil. It's going to, give you boobs and, stuff like that. Or, oh, it's totally fine. Eat tons of it. I don't know, because I'm not a scientist. I'm not a dietitian or anything, but I've got a good friend who is a dietitian, a registered dietitian. He's an ethical vegan, but, when he wears his dietitian hat, he's a dietitian, and, he's, he'll say things that probably a lot of crazy ass vegans have issues with. But he did tell me, I asked him that question, and he told me that I think he found something like over 400 papers or something like that that showed that there was no dangerous effect from eating soy. So I mean, I really look at it like this. Probably if you're eating things like tempeh, tofu, it's probably beneficial to stick with organic and non-GMO type stuff. And if you have the option of eating non-GMO or eating GMO, just eat non-GMO. Really, do you have to argue about, is it healthy? Is there data? The more unprocessed something is, or the less enhanced something is, the better it's probably going to be for you. It really, again, this doesn't need to be rocket science. So I know people who eat 3 bricks of tofu a day. They're really big, strong dudes, and they're totally fine, So I don't think you should get bent out of shape drinking a little soy milk. I don't think you should get bent out of shape eating some tempeh or tofu. Now, if you're eating totally processed soy dogs 6 times a day, that's probably an issue. If you eat 1 or 2 every now and then, it's really, people get so crazy about food. It's unbelievable, man. It's like a religion.
It's weird.
And soy, I've never had an issue with it, but I don't eat it, every single meal all day long. I eat tofu a few times a week. I eat tempeh. I drink a little soy milk every now and then. I also drink almond milk and other things like that. So, I don't put all my stock into any one certain food group, but I haven't seen enough convincing research that soy is bad for you. Most of the stuff that I hear is usually bro science. It's usually coming from people in the bodybuilding community who are, who believe that whey protein is God, and things like that, and soy is evil. And, so you've got to be very skeptical on both sides of the coin. I know vegans who say a bunch of stupid shit, and I know omnivores who say a bunch of stupid shit. So for anybody getting in, the more you can focus your diet on healthy whole foods, the better you're going to be. And then don't worry about the other 5-10%ers. Just don't, it's not worth stressing about.
So we have a question in our chat box, which is, what is tempeh? And I'm actually pretty interested. I don't really know what it is either.
It's fermented soy beans. You buy it in blocks, kind of like tofu. And you can actually see the beans in it. Like it's not very processed. And you can get it with different types of they make different like 9-grain, tempeh and things like that. But you could consider it a meat substitute, because it is very high in protein. But it's basically just fermented soybeans. Okay,
cool. I want to talk about how you feel about SeaWorld and zoos. Like, what are your views on that? And how do you think that the universe, the world, can kind of transition into a less harmful zoo and SeaWorld world?
Yeah, it's it's definitely something like I'm not, and I hate referring to myself as an activist because I'm not, I contribute to animal welfare via monetary donations, by volunteering for different animal rescue and stuff like that. But I'm not out there with a picket sign, and I'm not out there, being a voice on that side of it. And I have friends and I have people that are more engaged in the activist side. So I know very little about that type of stuff, but my personal feelings are, I think it's wrong. I think it's borderline evil to take a creature that is supposed to be out in nature, out in its, when you look at, confining these animals to such small spaces when they're supposed, when whales are supposed to be out in the open ocean, when dolphins are supposed to be out in the open ocean, and you're confining them for our entertainment, it's kind of sick, and I mean, I say that kind of loosely because, as a kid, I grew up going to zoos, going, wow, look at the animals. And you don't understand what's really happening there. You know what I'm saying? So I try to be compassionate on one side of the coin. On the other side of the coin, once you're aware, you've got to make a hard stance against that stuff and you cannot support it. It's totally, when you just step back and think about the conditions these animals are exposed to, they're not living in their natural habitat. They're not eating their natural diet. It's not good, and you're basically, it's a form of, in my opinion, torture, and yeah, sure, these animals, they're alive, but what's the quality of life? It's no different than, you or me being in a jail cell and people just walking by looking at us and, throwing some grain at us or whatever. It's bad. Now, on the flip side of that, I do know certain, I guess you could call them zoos, but really what they are is they're animal, like wildlife sanctuaries where they take to rehabilitate animals, where you can go interact with these animals and look at the professionals. I think that's a different story because there are certain animals that because of injuries or because of certain things, they couldn't fend for themselves in their natural habitat. I think that's a different story. But the big commercial institutions, SeaWorld and the zoos and stuff like that, I'm very much against.
So if you were to have kids and, they, or I don't know if you do have kids, I just assumed you did.
I don't, and I won't.
And I won't, so let's just, okay, so then we can just move on from that. Could you?
No, I think I know where you're going to go with that. And I mean, I would definitely bring my kids up in an environment where I educated them, but I would also want to teach them to think for themselves. Unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, kids are simply a product of their household and then their school and their community and their interaction. And then eventually when they venture off, so they only know what their parents are exposing them to, and they only know what their parents' level of knowledge is. I'd want to teach them to think about things for themselves, and to understand, why, to question, is taking a wild animal and caging it, is that really a good thing? Look at the selfishness of it. We use it for our entertainment and stuff like that, but is it really in the best, is that really the best thing for the animal? So I'd want to teach them to look at things through other beings' eyes, look at things through other people's eyes. And I really think that's part of, just embracing a compassionate lifestyle, looking at things not from your point of view. And when you step back and you look at these big corporate, these, SeaWorld and zoos and things like that, and you really see, what it's about, it's painful, like I said, it's no different than putting a human in a cage, and just walking by and looking at it, you know? I
Right.
mean, it's crazy when you think about it.
Wow, that's such a powerful answer, just to give them their own choice, but to also educate them so they're not making, just out of the blue choices. So I'm sure you travel a lot just because you seem successful and, you're probably all over the place. How do you stay on a plant-based diet? Like, what tips do you have for people to eat healthy on the
I don't think it's that hard. Like my friend Jeremy from the band Comeback Kid, he said in a book that he was a contributor to of mine, you can find a banana anywhere. I mean, you can in a Starbucks, there's fresh fruit right there at the checkout. I mean, even Dunkin' Donuts has bananas and oranges. When I go in to grab a coffee, if I need something, so I mean, it's getting easier and easier to find. Granted, they don't have vegan donuts or they don't have, but I mean, really, the banana is probably better for you anyway. But it's really not that hard. You can find a Cliff Bar almost anywhere. Like you stop in like I recently traveled up to Ohio to do some training, and I stopped in a gas station in like Kentucky or something like that. And, there was fresh fruit, there was Cliff Bars, there's, trail mix and things like that. So it's really not that hard. The choices may be limited, but I mean, come on, it's food. And what's the longest that you have to go before you can get to a grocery store, before you can get to a restaurant? I mean, unless you're just like, stuck stranded in the middle of nowhere, but if that's the case, you probably got bigger things to worry about than what you're going to eat, So
Exactly. So if someone comes to you and they're like, oh, I want to make the change, but they're not educated on how to do it. Like, what documentaries or YouTube videos do you suggest that they watch?
For me, I definitely try to steer them more toward like the health ones first. Forks Over Knives is a really good one for people to watch. Vegucated is pretty good too, because I like that, that one gets a little bit into factory farming and organic, like the free range farms, and to see that there's really not much difference, with the way the animals are treated, and they all end up at the same end, and that I think helps put a face on the food. I mean, I've got mixed feelings about the slaughterhouse videos and stuff like that, and the shock videos. I think, I'm glad that there's people that do the undercover work. I know it's hard. I could never do it. And I'm friends with people who have done that, because that's the only way people are going to know about it. But I mean, what that does to your soul, I mean, to have to see that, I could never do that. So I respect immensely the people that go out and they do that to try to bring this information to light. But I think starting people off with that stuff, it might be a little bit too intense, so I like I said, I'm glad that stuff's out there, because I think people need to know about it, but I don't know if that's the way to introduce a lot of people, because that immediately creates them to, and yeah, they see the horrors of it, but it's almost like that might put up a wall right away, because they're, wow, they're so I mean that I think you have to be careful with that kind of stuff. Because I think most people, they are compassionate toward animals. They just don't make the connection between their dog and a cow yet. And I think they will come to that if you create the right scenario, and showing some of those intense things isn't necessarily the best thing at first, So I definitely like the health-based documentaries. Forks Over Knives, I think, is a great one to get people started with, but I do think it eventually creates that environment for them to make those connections on their own,
And for everyone listening to this, I'll be linking Forks Over Knives in the description box so y'all can watch this. It's free on YouTube. But I would really like to make you vulnerable for a second and just ask, when's the last time that you messed up, whether that was on purpose or on accident, and how did you handle that?
Honestly, I don't know, because in the last, I mean, ever since making the decision to go totally vegan, I don't know, like, unless like I've been eating somewhere and there's been some dairy in something I've eaten, that would be, it would definitely be unknown. So I can't really pinpoint it. I can say that when I was going up to Ohio just a couple months ago, I stopped at a Mexican restaurant and they had a vegetarian menu. Well, you often forget that does mean cheese, and that does mean sour cream and stuff a lot of times. So the beans and or I got fajitas, and like the beans came out with a spot of melted cheese right in the middle. and the lettuce came out with a dollop of like sour cream on it. And I was with 3 of my lifters who I train, and they're all omnivores. And it's like they're more sensitive to me being a vegan than I am to me being a vegan. They're like freaking out, like, oh my God, we got to send it back. What are you going to do? And I'm like, well, I'm going to scoop the cheese out. I'm going to scoop the sour cream out. I'm going to wipe my fork off and I'm going to eat it, and you almost feel like you're a leper, I mean, it's like, come on, man. It's like, you've got to calm down a little bit. I'm not going to, I'm not going to eat it, but I mean, if there's some like sour cream residue on my lettuce, that I missed, I'm not going to flagellate myself either. I mean, it's like you have to do the best that you can when you go out to be aware of that stuff. But I'm not the guy, if I'm eating at a non-vegan place, I'm not the guy asking the waiter, hey, can you find out if my grilled portobellos are going to be anywhere near a hamburger? I think going back to don't be an asshole, that is one of the things that contributes to vegans having this horrible perception from non-vegans. Right. So when you go to a restaurant, do the best that you can with what you have. If something, like I said, I can't remember a time where I've ingested something. I'm sure I have, I mean, I'm sure that, eating out, maybe there's been some butter in something, or maybe, to the best of my knowledge, there hasn't, but I'm sure that it's happened at some point in time. And I'm not going to lose any sleep over it because I didn't knowingly do it. I mean, I had to like hit myself in the face the other day. Somebody was on one of the vegan discussion forums talking about she was at a wedding and ate some milk chocolate accidentally and she thought it was vegan, and oh my God, what do I do? It's like, call the vegan police and turn in your V card. It's like, you're getting a little carried away. You didn't knowingly do it. Don't beat yourself up about it. I mean, so I think these people that debate about this minutia about, oh my God, was there honey in that? Or, if you do your best, that's the only thing I can say about it. So knowingly messed up, I'm not sure, but I'm sure that it's happened in the last, 3 or so years that I've been vegan. I mean, I'm sure that it has. Everybody that I know who's vegan has had instances, and what I've learned is that they get over it, and life goes on, and you just got to do your best with where you're at and what you're doing, and try to make those right choices, But I mean, it also kind of burns me up when I see these people debating about like, is there sugar that has bone ash in it? It's like, man, really, is this what you guys are going to sit there and fight about? Come on, man. There's bigger issues out there. It's good to be aware about stuff, but come on, you're getting a little carried away with some of this stuff,
No, I totally agree with everything you're saying. I think, and one of my friends that has kind of been on the same path as I am, he doesn't want to tell people he's vegan either. He wants people to find out he's vegan just in conversation or whatever, and then be shocked that he's so normal. And that's the whole point of this podcast, is to just normalize veganism and just bring awareness to the fact that just because you're vegan doesn't mean you 100% all the time are perfect. And when you mess up, it's totally cool to go back.
And to that point, when you see these idiots that argue about all the minutia and stuff, like, you're going to watch the Super Bowl, don't you know they sell hot dogs at the stadium, or the football's made out of pigskin or whatever? Really, you're going to bitch about stuff like that? If you regress everybody enough, you're going to find that something in your life impacts animal welfare on some level. If you're totally, you don't wear anything and you don't eat anything that's got, if you get all the, if you pay your taxes, some of that money goes to, government funded, government subsidized factory farms. So at some, even if you get down to that point, if you pay your taxes, you're supporting factory farms. So get off your fucking soapbox. I mean, it's focus on meeting people where they're at, being a good role model, doing the best with what you have control over, and don't be an asshole. That's the way I look at it.
I love this. And we're right at the end. It's my 2 favorite questions to ask everybody. And the first one is, do you think that the world will go vegan in our lifetime? And I don't mean 100% vegan, but I mean the majority.
No, but I do think we're going to see more and more awareness. I forgot what it was, but I read an article, and I've got a good friend who works for the Humane League, and he gave me some statistics and stuff. But something like 850,000 fewer animals were slaughtered for food in the year 2014 because of meat reduction strategies. not because of the very small percentage of the population that's vegan and vegetarian, but because people are starting to embrace things like meatless Mondays, vegan before 6. And, when you look at these things, I try to look at the positive because it's bringing awareness. I got people that train here who follow high fat, high protein ketogenic diets telling me that they're doing meatless Mondays or that they're trying to find a way to incorporate more plant foods. I look at that as that's one day a week that they're not eating animal-based foods. That's awesome. And if more people do that, that has a huge effect. All right. And I don't know if this is statistically accurate, but I thought I had read something that said something like 75% of the US population has participated in some sort of meat reduction strategy. Not going totally vegetarian, not going totally vegan, but maybe a vegan meal a day, vegan day once a week, meatless, whatever. That is such a positive thing. And, when you listen to the asshole vegans who are saying stuff like, well, meatless Mondays are stupid because all you're doing is giving people permission to eat, anything they want Tuesday through Sunday. You know what? They were going to eat whatever the hell they wanted on Monday. Now they're purposely engaging in something where they're going to eat plants on Monday. That's a win. If more people do that, and they may find like, hey, plant foods are awesome. They taste great. What else is out there? Maybe I can go vegan 2 days a week. Maybe I can go vegan, everything except dinner. I don't know. But any step in that direction is positive, and I think that's what we're going to see more of. I really doubt we're going to see a totally vegan world. There's if you look worldwide, globally, there's people that eat animals just for survival. That still hunt and gather food and stuff like that. Those aren't the people that I'm worried about. I'm worried more about factory farming. I'm worried more about things that we can have a mess. Things that are bad for the environment, things that are bad for animal welfare and stuff like that. I mean, when you think about just the numbers, statistically, in the US, 9 to 10 billion, I think like 9.5 billion animals are slaughtered every year for food. Okay. So that tells me that we've got the resources to feed and fatten 9 plus billion animals for slaughter in a year. And there's just over 7 billion people on the planet, and some of them are starving. How fucked up is that? When you just look at those numbers. So those are the things that I'm more concerned about, not indigenous, tribes and stuff who hunt and gather and stuff like that. I'm talking about large scale factory farming. I'm talking about, things like that is where my concern mostly is, because I really think that if you care about animal welfare, the biggest change you can make is what's on your plate. People argue about leather and fur and palm oil, and that's great and that's very valid. I'm not saying it's not, but people buy a new coat once every few years, once a year. I don't know. I'm not a shopper, so I don't know how often people update the wardrobe. I wear the same shit for years, so I don't know. But people eat 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6 times a day. So starting with what's on your plate, in my opinion, is going to have the biggest impact. And I think when you become aware with what's on your plate, then that spreads out into personal care products, that spans out into clothes, that, then you start looking at what else can I start to change, but start with what's on your plate first, because we eat multiple times a day. We don't buy new clothes multiple times a day. We don't buy new shoes multiple times a day, and I think, and I don't know much about the industry, but probably a lot of that is a byproduct of the meat industry, when they start looking at what to use the other parts of the animal for. So I think if you start reducing the number of animals killed for food, that will probably have a more positive impact on, other things. Maybe people will start looking more at synthetic, leathers and things like that. They'll start looking at cruelty-free options as well. And I know that, there's automobile manufacturers already. I think Tesla, their new car is the first 100% cruelty-free automobile on the market. As a result, I read something about Ferrari going more towards synthetic leather for their interiors. That's awesome. And actually, people always like to beat me up because of sports cars and stuff like that. But actually, high performance cars typically use synthetic leathers like Alcantara and things like carbon fiber. So there's actually very, little inside of those. It's usually in the luxury cars, like the big, Benzes and stuff like that, that you tend to have more like leather options. But to see automobile manufacturers starting to recognize that, to see the changes, that's why I love about Tesla. They're bringing the environmental awareness, things that, bring more green energy and things like that into everybody's hands. It's not just for people that have the means to afford it. I think that's awesome, you know. And now I think because of that impact from an environmental standpoint, more people can access that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So when it starts on the plate, I think that spills over into other areas of life. I think very rarely does it go the other way. You know what I'm saying? I think people don't go, I got to stop buying leather because I'm concerned about animals, but then they're sitting down to a steak. You know, I think they sit down and they eat animals and say, whoa, I got to stop this stuff. Now I got to start wearing it. Now I got to stop wearing it. Now I got to look at, hey, is this stuff, are my personal care products cruelty free? I think that's where it starts. So start on the plate. And then I think the snowball effect takes place after that, you know.
Right. And that was such a powerful answer. And I just want to acknowledge you for your mentality and your just passion for this and just the way you think about it. I think if everyone adapted the way you think, it would be such a big movement. And that's why I really wanted to share your story. I really want to get that out there and see that people can think like that and be vegan and still be pro future, you know? So one of my favorite questions, just because I love hearing about goals, is what are 2 goals that you have for yourself in 2016? They don't have to be related to veganism, but just for yourself.
For me, the biggest thing is on the business standpoint. You know, I'm going to be relocating my training center because my lease is up, and I'm looking at getting into a little bit different model where I kind of do more of an open gym type of thing, where I'm training some athletes and things like that. So I'm going through a little bit of a change as far as my brick and mortar operation. And I've also started doing more online coaching and consulting. And one of my biggest business goals is to get a little bit more into things like speaking, online consulting. You know, I can only work with so many people in the 4 walls of my personal training studio. I can reach more people through writing books, through speaking at different events and things like that. And I want to get a little bit more into that. And I want to start kind of shifting my focus from just training center operations to getting, you know, to more people on a larger scale, whether that's through writing, you know, like I recently released a book, Eat Plants, Lift Iron, a little plug right here, with Stick from Dead Prez, you know, the hip hop duo. That book's been doing great. And he actually invited me to be part of a documentary that he's being filmed for. I don't know much about the documentary, but they're supposedly following around 4 plant-based vegan people and 1 butcher. So it's going to be really interesting because they're talking to these people on a personal level, not looking at like, you know, the larger scale type of things. So Stick brought me in because, you know, I was his personal trainer. You know, we wrote the book together and stuff like that. So that documentary is supposed to be out by, I think they're going to release it by Earth Day or something like that. So it was pretty cool to be involved in that. And then to also, you know, have that kind of help with my goals of getting out there and meeting more people, you know, doing things on a little bit larger scale outside my training center. So that's probably my biggest business goal, is to start, you know, reaching more people through writing, through speaking and things like that. And then as far as personal goals, I do have some lifts that I'm trying to hit in the gym. I have gotten back into powerlifting competition because of my involvement with Plant Built. So I do have the goal of hitting a few powerlifting meets on my own this year and with the powerlifters I coach, because Plant Built is not going to be doing our annual meetup in Austin this year. I think we're going to go every other year. So the next big group thing we're going to do is going to be in 2017. We just wanted the year off, I guess, to kind of, you know, it's tough when we do that big fundraiser, you know, through Indiegogo to try to raise money that we donate to animal rescues and we donate to vegan outreach and stuff like that. You know, that takes up a significant part of everybody's time, and it leads up to our thing in Texas. Then after we get back, you know, Danny and Giacomo and the other people that help out, they've got to get all the perks out to everybody who donate and stuff like that. And then that wraps up the year, and then pretty soon you roll right back into next year. So, you know, they've got businesses that they run, they got things that they do. So they've decided to go to an every other year type thing. Right. So I'm going to focus more at getting back into the competitive arena a little bit, mainly with myself, because I've got some personal targets that I want to hit. With, you know, some of my strength training and stuff like that. So those are the 2 things that I'm really kind of focused on this year. So.
Awesome. And so for everyone listening, I am going to be linking the Eat Plants and Lift Iron books in the description. But you can go ahead and just, you know, wrap it up with telling everyone how they can contact you. Cool.
Yeah. You can get, the best way to get to me is through my website, which is just my name, Scott Shetler, ScottShetler.com. My gym website is linked to that. The project that I do to benefit animal welfare is called Plant-Based Performance. It's at plantbasedperformance.org. It's a series of books that we've done where we've gotten vegan athletes, health and fitness pros, celebrities, and activists to all contribute their stories to these books. And I donate 100% of those book sales to animal welfare. One book goes to Mercy for Animals. The other book goes 50% to the Animal Legal Defense Fund, 50% to a local rescue I support called Forgotten Animals Rescue. But that is linked on my site as well. Like I said, all my video blog is on there. My personal blog's on there. Links to all my social media is there. So if people just go to my personal website, they can find as much or as little bit about me as they want through there. And really, in closing, the biggest thing I could say is if you're vegan or if you're on, if you're teetering, wondering if you want to go vegan, definitely do it. It's not that hard. And don't be an asshole. Come into the community, come into the lifestyle. If you pursue activism, whatever your role in the vegan community is or whatever you fall into, be open-minded, be compassionate, not just to animals that we're trying to save, but to people, and realize that everybody out there is doing what they perceive as right. And it may not be something that you agree with. So be able to regress a little bit and meet them along on their journey, because you were probably at that point not too long ago. So don't be a judgmental prick. The best way to inspire change is to be a positive example and to be a positive role model, not an asshole. So
I feel like you kind of just did the description of your next book that's going to be titled "How Not to Be a Vegan Asshole."
I think that would be a great book, actually.
Yeah, and it could be a whole book about how to perceive people and train people and inspire people. That would be really cool.
It would be cool, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for everyone watching. I don't know why I can't get that sentence out right, but whatever. We will see y'all next Tuesday, and I appreciate you so much, Scott, for taking the time. So that's it for this week. Wasn't he awesome? Thank you so much for listening, and I will have everything tagged in the description below. If you have any questions about being vegan or wanting to be on the podcast, please contact me at any social media, DARKFUNSH9. I can't wait to meet you.